In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, family, and welcome to another powerful episode of America in Black and White, where we explore the stories, the struggles, and the triumphs that shape our communities and our collective future. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King, and tonight we are diving into a conversation that sits at the intersection of law, leadership, education, and legacy. In every generation, there are builders, people who don't just talk about change, but design the systems, institutions, and pathways that make change possible. People who understand that justice is not just an abstract idea, but a lived experience shaped by opportunity, access, and the courage to imagine something better. Tonight's guest is one of those builders. David Edgerton III, Esquire, is an attorney, institution architect, and social entrepreneur whose work is transforming how young people, especially Black boys and young men, see themselves, their futures, and their place in the legal profession. From the courtroom to the classroom, from the pulpit to the community, David is a leader who moves with purpose, conviction, and a long horizon. He is the founder and executive chairman of Brothers in Law Incorporated, a national nonprofit creating a full pipeline into the legal profession, starting in kindergarten and stretching all the way into professional practice. His work blends mentorship, civic engagement, leadership development, and a deep belief in the right to learn, the idea that education is not just preparation for life, but the foundation of civic participation, economic mobility, and human flourishing. He is a husband, a father, a youth minister, a community builder, and a visionary committed to strengthening democratic institutions and expanding access to opportunity. Tonight, we explore his journey, his mission, and the Black history giants who shaped his path. Charles Hamilton Houston, Thurgood Marshall, Langston Hughes, and Stokely Carmichael. This is going to be a conversation about legacy, leadership, and the future we are building together. Let's get into it and let's introduce David Edgerton to the show.
Hey,
Hello,
Charles, how you
sir.
doing?
I'm doing just excellent. How are you?
Listen, if you are on this side of the earth, it is a beautiful day and it's a blessed day. I cannot complain.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience before we get into the show?
Well, one, I want to thank everyone who is joining us, whether you are brothers-in-law, my Howard community, my church community, all across the world. I really hope that this conversation can spark something that has already been ignited within you, that you understand and you know that I'm just a regular person, just like anybody else you find on the street. And there's only difference between myself and you is either time or opportunity.
And we're about to offer lots of those.
Yeah.
So let's start with a segment where I like for people to get to the opportunity to know you. So we'll call this part about your life story and your personal journey. What early experiences shaped your understanding of justice, fairness, and leadership?
Yeah. So I was raised in Minnesota in a small suburb just 15 minutes from the border of Wisconsin called Cottage Grove. And in elementary school, middle school, I was in a Spanish immersion program. And I was the only Black male in my grade, in my classes, only person that looked like me. And things were going pretty well in elementary school. And then I went on and transitioned to middle school. And in sixth grade, I'll never forget, on the first day of classes, I saw my class schedule, and it said that I was to be in remedial math and science and reading and so on and so forth. So I went to the counselor and I said, hey, there must be some sort of error. You got me mixed up with someone. I'm really should probably be maybe in the advanced classes. I don't know. But I'm fluent in a whole nother language, and I'm a sixth grader. And the counselor informed me, well, no, there was no mistake. See, statistically speaking, Black males, their grades tend to drop in middle school. And so they wanted to prepare me for that certainty by placing me in those classes. And to some may view that as, oh, well, they're setting me up so that I do not have a challenging experience. What I saw that were bullets meant to kill my ambition, that I was being predestined to fail before I was even given the chance or the opportunity to show my worth and to show my value. And luckily for myself, I come from a two-parent household. And when I informed them, they both showed up and pulled up to the school, and they asked the counselor, why are you telling my Black child, the only Black child that you have in this special program, that he is going to fail? And very quickly, as you know, as Black parents go, it changed. However, it had me thinking, well, what about the people whose parents may work, not work a 9 to 5, but work a 5 to 11, or people who may not have grown up with their parents in the first place, and they live with grandparents and guardians, what have you. The people that could not show up, that may not even be fluent in English, let alone Spanish. What becomes of them? Who's advocating on their behalf? And through that really had me thinking about, who decides the outcome for people? And is this a really fair assessment that, based off of statistics, that you place me in this category, in this mold? And I think that is the incident that sparked my desire, not only for justice for myself, but what could I be doing to build bridges, to build institutions and systems so that people that look like me do not have to go through what I went through, but are instead from day one put on a pathway towards success.
Mm. So when you think about that experience, because that's a really interesting story, when you think about that in today's time,
Yeah.
what kind of inspiration do you get from that as you build your organization?
Yeah. So the organization that I founded my first year of law school at Howard University School of Law, it's called Brothers in Law. And the mission of Brothers in Law is to diversify the legal profession by creating a tangible pipeline into the profession for underrepresented students as early as kindergarten. And we do that through professional development, community service, mentorship, scholarship, and above all, friendship. And what sparked that, the idea is that in sixth grade, you are telling me that I'm going to fail. We know that statistically speaking, around first or second grade, those standardized test scores determine how many jail cells and how many jail buildings we build. And what if we were so proactive in the success as we were proactive in the failure or in the shortcoming or in the fall of young children? What if we told them from the moment they are born, the moment that they enter formal education, that you are somebody? And not only are you somebody, but you can go exceedingly abundantly above what your parents did, what your generations of your family have done, what your neighbors may have gone through, and you can excel. Because it's all about access and opportunity. It's not necessarily about how much money is in your bank account, but it's about what do you have within yourself that can be honed, that can be developed, that can be mentored so that you can go on and do great things. But more importantly, after you do those great things, or rather, even while you are building towards that, how are you lifting as you climb? Because I have been in rooms where I am the only one that looks like me. But I know that after me comes 10,000, right? And so when you talk about what it looks like to build an ecosystem in which every child, regardless of their zip code, regardless of how their name is spelled, the clothes that they wear on their back, that they have a pathway towards success, towards a career, not just lucrative from a financial standpoint, but the thing about learning the law is that you have an understanding on how society works. And with that understanding, you can go on and educate the next generation, but you can also educate your grandparents who may not have had that opportunity. My grandfather, he has middle school education. He worked as a blue collar factory worker his entire life. And my other grandfather, he was a construction worker. He had his own construction firm. So they weren't in the classroom, until 25 like myself. But yet they were still learning and they were still building and they were building with their hands. And so how do we create a world in which a child can see themselves in these roles, in these positions of power, in rooms that their ancestors couldn't even dream of being in? And that's really why I created Brothers-in-Law, to really be a platform for students. It's a completely student-run organization, from the department directors to our interns to a great majority of our board of directors. We really do believe in the value and the voice of the youth. And we know that just because you are young does not mean you don't know anything at all.
So, growing up, who were the people who first recognized your potential and poured into you?
I think it starts with the people that gave birth to me. My namesake, David Edgerton Jr., right? He is a Black man who navigated corporate spaces in America, attained a bachelor's degree from North Carolina A&T, an MBA, as well as another master's degree in HR. And from the moment I was born, I knew that I was loved because he told me. He told me that I was valued. He told me that you are somebody, that you are going to be something important, that you are going to go change the world. And he showed me through his work ethic. He showed me through the way that he treated community members. He always told me to treat the janitor the same way that you treat the CEO. And he instilled in me that do not let anybody take away your light. And when I think about light, I would be remiss if I did not bring up my mother, Michelle Edgerton, who, overcoming so many obstacles in life, graduated at the top of her class in high school, got the highest scholarship available. So there's still a plaque in her high school in Greenville, North Carolina. Went on and get a full ride at Wake Forest, went on to go to med school, had me in her third year of med school and said, you know what, I'm done. This is not what I want to do in life. What I want to do is I want to be a mother and I want to impact life later on. And now she sits as the chief advancement officer for the YMCA, right? My parents alone showed me that anything is possible if you have faith. If you have the faith of a mustard seed, and if you work hard and you're consistent, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. But outside of my parents, I would say that it goes back to education. While I did have that experience with the sixth grade counselor, there are many teachers growing up. First coming to mind is Mr. Kinley, who's not even a Black person, he's a white man who taught AP world history. And what he showed me, one is that the people that are supporting you don't always look like you. And the people that value and see you may not come from your same background. But if they do see you, if they invest in you, if they are able to educate you about your world and the history, then you should take that and embrace it with open arms. There are many other teachers that I can think of, or role models and mentors, but at the top of mind, it definitely comes to my parents, my family, and the teachers that helped raise me along the way.
Wow. So with that foundation, so it's kind of like you're always reminded subconsciously of what to do, how to do, and when to do it.
Yeah,
Wow, that's powerful. That's a good thing, and that's a really good upbringing, and that's the example that I wish that many of our young kids that are in the same age range as you could have had that kind of rearing, because it makes a difference in society. It's not like you have to be like somebody else, but it's just your knowing of who you are, where you came from, and what you got to do. That's the important thing.
yeah.
Uh, So, can you tell us when did you first realize that law was your calling?
I think in high school, I originally thought my father was an electrical engineering major at A&T, worked in IT for 20 plus years. And at that time, tech was the big thing. Everybody was going to Meta, Google, what have you, getting computer science degree. So I thought that was my route until I took a class called AP Physics. And I learned very quickly. No, STEM was not for me. No, sir. Mm-mm. No. And but I was a good student, and I knew how to read. I knew how to write, and I was on my high school speech and debate team. And the thing about speech and debate, competing at the national level, is that you are taught very early on the power of your voice. You are taught how to research, how to articulate your stance, support it and back it with quantitative and qualitative evidence, as well as your own personal story. And I think connecting that with my experience in sixth grade, learning, okay, who decides what? Who holds the power to effect the next generation? That is what really led me to study political science at the illustrious Howard University, where I was taught by professors who were not only academics, but they were also, many of them, attorneys themselves. And hearing them share their experience practicing in the law, the impact you can make, learning about Charles Hamilton Houston, my fraternity brother, learning about Thurgood Marshall, learning about the impact that Black people have had on the legal, on the criminal justice system, on the judicial system here in this country and internationally. That is when I decided if I want to make the biggest change, if I want to make the long lasting, systemic, institutional change, then I must understand how you even do it in the first place. And that is by learning the law.
Wow, that is interesting. So, do you have a specialty when it comes to law?
Yes, so I am in my very first year practicing. I fortunately passed the DC bar on the first attempt last summer. And so I'm currently at a law firm where I primarily do business, commercial litigation, as well as general counsel services for social impact organizations, nonprofits, education institutions, religious institutions. The idea is to be able to utilize my legal knowledge and experience to help the least of these, to help enact change at a institutional level from for organizations and nonprofits who are in the business of making this world a better place for all.
Wow. So, how did your upbringing influence the way you lead today?
You know, my parents, as I mentioned earlier, they're from North Carolina. And So, you have Southern hospitality, that you greet everybody. That is sir, is ma'am, how you doing? You don't just get into it. But then you translate that to Minnesota, we have something called Minnesota nice. We're just, a short little drive from Canada. And when you think about the disposition of the average Minnesotan, it is an individual that is so warm, that is welcoming, that greets you with open arms, open hands. And so learning from my family, learning from the places that I've journeyed and ventured, I learned that every single person was created with a certain set of gifts and talents and skills for the purpose of serving others. And oftentimes we forget that. And what I do in any role that I'm in, whether I'm at a junior level or I'm at a senior level, is to see the human, to see the inner child in everybody, to know that, you know what, you lashed out on me, you cussed me out, called me everything but a child of God, but I don't know what's happening once we clock out. I don't know what your background, I don't know what you're going through in your family. And so I learned a lot about empathy. I learned to treat people with respect and dignity. Because at the end of the day, we are all on this pathway and in this journey called life. And we all want the same thing. And it's not happiness. It's not money. It's not cars. It's not status. Every single person in this world wants to know their purpose. Why am I here in the first place? And I think as leaders, our job is to help identify, to be able to reach individuals, to raise them, to learn and understand who they are as a person, what do they bring into this world, and most importantly, to release them out into the world. You can't just hoard someone with good talent. You can't try to minimize someone because you are afraid that they may outshine you. You have to be comfortable understanding that for everything there is a reason, there's a season, or it could be for a lifetime. But in this moment, today, I try to be as present as possible. I try to listen. Listen not to respond, but to really understand the other person's perspective. And then empower them, not just me tell them what to do, but to empower them to make their own decisions, to be able to be leaders their own selves. What good am I to give you a catfish plate if I don't teach you how to go out into the river and cast the net and be able to get your own fish?
So, what role did faith play in your development as a young man?
It played a ginormous role, really. I never forget it. It was around this time, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years ago. I was deciding between law school and divinity school. I come from a long line. I'm a preacher's kid. I'm a preacher's grandkid, and so I decided between becoming a man of the cloth or joining the bar. And I got admitted to both Harvard Divinity School, Yale Divinity School. I received full rides, dean scholarship, stipend, you name it. They rolled out the whole red carpet. And I was admitted to Howard Law School. And I'll never forget my wife telling me, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, telling me, yeah, you're going to law school. And I said, but they didn't give me no money. Awesome, great, love the thought, but I'm going where the money resides. And she said, no, you're going to law school. That is where you are called to go. Now you can be Jonah and be Nineveh and avoid going to Nineveh, but at the end of the day, you're gonna make your way there.
Right.
And so I got out of my own head. I collected myself, and I'll never forget. I submitted my rejection email, or declining the offers. And the very next day that occurred, I received a phone call from the president, Wayne A.I. Frederick of Howard University. And he informed me that, congratulations, you are a 2021 Harry S. Truman Scholar. And so I received a scholarship now to attend law school. So I was like, oh, well, money's not a problem anymore. I guess I'm going to law school. And it took that. Even on that very same year, we really looked at each other, my girlfriend of 3 years at the time, and he said, you know what? We're about to graduate. We're going to go to grad school. I think we need to get married. And we thought we were going to get married, probably the age that I am today. But we believed and we had faith that, you know what, I think that was the time. And we had a 4-month-long engagement. We got married a month after we graduated college, a week before my 21st birthday in Miami. And in retrospect, we could have maybe pushed that back 2 weeks. But I digress. But we got married, and we had a huge wedding. All our friends and family came together. And I needed that. I needed that in that moment. Because that woman, as soon as she became my wife, became the rock in which the firm foundation through God that changed my life, saved my life. But for her, I would not be sitting in front of you right now on this podcast. And so faith is everything to me. Faith is the reason that I was able to, after being evicted 3 separate times during law school, in my last month of school, said, you know what? I'm putting in my 30-day notice. I don't know where I'm going to go. I have no place to go. And it wasn't until several rejections that 4 days before I had to move out that we found the house that I am living in today.
Wow.
In order to achieve and reach the places where you are called to be, you must have an understanding that it will never be on your own timeline. It will never be the exact way that you think it will be. But you have to move. You have to go. And that requires faith.
So, what values from your family still guide your decision making today?
Authenticity. I grew up in a household who was not afraid to be silly. I grew up with a father not afraid to show emotion, not afraid to allow me to push back. I think that one of the biggest lessons that my parents taught me was to self-advocate. If I didn't agree with my parents on whatever rule that they may have, or not allowing me to do something, I was not just as shut down and told, go to your room, I'm an adult, you do as I say. I was told to argue my case. Tell me and articulate, not just because you feel like it, but because there are facts. There is a rationale, a tangible rationale for why you should do the thing that I told you you cannot do. And so, I never take no for an answer, at least the first time. It's about being able to be consistent in your self-advocacy, but also consistent in your understanding that not everything is going to work out the way that you want it to. Like I mentioned, my mother was in her 3rd year of med school when she had me. And then she pivoted. She said, no, that's not for me. And she doesn't have any regrets now at all, because she had an understanding that is what is for you will not pass you. And so being told my entire life that I am loved, being told my entire life that I don't care if you wear a mauve double-breasted suit with a peacock bow tie, and polka dots. If that is you, then that is you. Enabled me to have a confidence that is very rare for young Black boys today.
That is so true.
Nobody could tell me not a doggone thing because my mama and daddy said that I am somebody and I'm special. And I know that I work hard. And if I work hard and if I have the faith, I can move a mountain. I can move 15.
Wow. Wow. You know something? I want to tell you, your parents, your parents are definitely exceptional. And they have done more than just a good job of tending and helping you to become the young man that you are, but they have paved a way that, regardless of the case, as you said before, nobody can take that away from you. You already got it and you know what's going on. I like that.
Yeah, and I always was told, unless they're gonna beat you up, now what?
So, how did becoming a husband and father shift your sense of purpose?
Wow. Yeah. So if you couldn't tell already, I was someone who really knew what I wanted growing up. At a very early age, I had an understanding that I want to be in a position to build generational wealth. I want to be able to influence and impact generations, not just individuals per se, but what can I do to impact the largest group of people? And what that does to a kid is that I was always looking at the future. I was always looking 10, 15 years ahead. I was, Duke played today in March Madness. And I remember being in elementary school looking up the Fuqua School of Business and figuring out, okay, well, this costs this much. These are the SATs, ACT scores that I need. Okay, this is a baseline personal statement. I was doing this in elementary school. Now, that's not normal. I don't recommend that. But I was master planner. My to-do list had a to-do list, and I got every single thing done in a timely manner. And then you mess around and have a kid where your schedule is out the window. It gets thrown out completely out the window. You wake up in the morning and you have a plan for the day, and then you go to pick up and wake up the kids, and oh snap, someone has pink eye. Well, I'm not doing what I thought I was going to do today. I had to learn to adjust and adapt quickly and not let it eat at me and kill me. I was so focused on the future that I was ignoring the present, what was directly in front of me. And what's directly in front of me was not a 5-year, 10-year plan, but a screaming baby that needs their diaper changed at 4 a.m. And so I think having children taught me that, one, while I may think or I may have thought that, my main purpose and goal is to help others, that it was for selfish reasons, that it was not necessarily as genuine as it should have been. Because at the end of the day, when you have children, you learn that life is bigger than yourself. And you learn that there are a lot of things that you focused on that really do not matter in the grand scheme of things. And then even to back up, marrying a Haitian Bahamian woman from Miami, I learned to have thick skin. I learned that my feelings are not the compass for my life, but rather they were indicators of a separation between my expectation and reality. What I pictured in my head for what a wife should be, in many instances, my wife fits that description. In many other instances, she does not.
Mhm.
But I had to learn that the same way that I was once a little boy who had dreams I was once a little boy and I experienced traumatic experiences, and people hurt me, and people broke my trust, and individuals that did whatever they could. The same with my wife. And so not putting her on a pedestal as the, because that's what we love to do, is that as soon as we get married, us as a lot of men, we just give our wife the entire baggage. We say, okay, you take, now I'm married, okay, you handle the house, you handle the kids, you handle my finances, you handle my mental health, you do everything for me. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and work my job and bring home the bacon. My wife wasn't going for that. She said, no, you will be present for your children. You will be present for me. You aren't just going to blow off and disregard or ignore and hold all your feelings in because, happy wife is a happy life. No, we're going to have conversations. Because if I am your helpmate, if I am your rib, then that means that I need to know what is going on in your head. And so I learned that I have to be honest with my wife, not only because at the end of the day, she'll always find out anything that I do, no matter how much I try to hide it from her, but more importantly, that she sees me in a way that most people in this world will never. And you need to have people that see you in the good, the bad, the ugly, and beautiful. And you have to trust them that they know and they can see a better version of you than you can even see for yourself. And so it taught me, being a husband, being a father, it taught me humility among among everything, but it also taught me perspective.
Mm, wow. Um, so let's transition over to Howard University and legal formation.
Yeah.
What did attending Howard University teach you about Black excellence and responsibility?
Mm. Attending Howard University showed me that not only is Black not a monolith, but to be Black in this world is to be beautiful, is to be golden. When you think about the actual color Black, it is a amalgamation of every single color under the sun. That is what the color Black is. And that is exactly what I saw on Howard University's campus. I met Black people from Korea, from Houston, California. I met Haitians, Jamaicans. I met Nigerians. I met Black people from Canada. I met Black people who were rich. I met Black people who were poor. I met Black people with two parents, with one parent, who were raised by their grandparents. I met so many different iterations of Black that I learned that even my own implicit bias, my own preconceived notion, we have this whole YN, debates and conversation in modern day. I learned by their color, but rather you use and embrace that individual for their color. I do not believe in color blindness. Everyone wants everything to be a melting pot. Howard University is not a melting pot. It is a garden salad of so many different cultures and backgrounds and experiences. And the thing about a garden salad is that you don't just get one flavor. One bite you might get an olive, another bite you might get a piece of lettuce, some tomato, a little onion. But when you put it all together, you taste each individual piece, but it makes a unique and beautiful cacophony of flavors. And so at Howard, I learned that my Blackness is not a hindrance. It is not a deficit. It is not something to put a chip on your shoulder, but rather it is the very thing that sets me apart. And that is something to be embraced. I learned about my history. My very first day, I learned that President Barack Obama and the first registered slave, John Punch, are related via his mother.
Wow.
Right? When you learn about Tulsa, about Watts, when you learn about the Kush in ancient Egypt, when you learn about your history, other people cannot go off and tell you about yourself because you already have it within you. And the last thing that I think about, Cardi Woodson, he says that, if you take someone's education, and I'm paraphrasing, but if you take someone's education, if you remove education from them, you do not have to worry about their actions, because you may cut off an arm, you may try to lock me up, you may try to put me under the jail cell, you may try to cancel me, you may try to blacklist me. But one thing that you will never, ever be able to take from me is what is in my mind.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So let me ask you this as a follow-up question to this. Do you sometimes think that you want to learn or would want to know what your feelings would be like if you went to a PWI?
No, because I did that. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity. There's something called a PSEO, a post-secondary education opportunity in Minnesota, in which, starting my sophomore year of high school, I actually attended classes on the campus of the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. So I would commute to Minneapolis from my high school. I was on a college campus at a PWI. I did not miss anything, frankly. And this argument that, well, I won't go to an HBCU because I want to know what the real world feels like, or last time I checked, Howard University, there's some real people there, real human beings with real professors, with real grades, with a real tuition, with a real dorm. And why would you cancel yourself out from having an experience in which everyone, and if not everyone, a great deal, a majority of the people surrounding you, your classmates, your professors, your counselors, even the lunch lady, right? That they have your best interests in heart, that they understand your experience. You do not have to explain to them what a bonnet is. You know what I mean? There are cultural contexts that transverse education. You go in your classroom and you have a conversation about economic theory, but they use the example of BET. They tell you, well, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about philosophy, but you're going to read this Tupac song, right? I can relate to that more than I can relate to Cicero,
Mm.
or I can connect deeper in a more intimate way with a Chadwick Boseman watching Black Panther to understand the dynamics of colonization better than watching some, PBS or History Channel documentary from 1975. And so I will never talk down on a PWIs and say that, it's inferior or better. But if you are a Black person, I will always recommend attending an HBCU, either in the undergraduate level. And if you don't do it in the undergrad, no hate, but get your grad degree from an HBCU. There is a certain lens, perspective, and pedagogy that is developed at an HBCU that trains you not only to understand the written material, but also at a deeper level, how to understand how that impacts your community. And more importantly, what you can do about it.
I want to tell you something. You're hitting on some things that, oh my God, they are very valuable. And I've already started to think in my mind, because we're definitely going to need to have you back. It's a conversation that we're going to have about that, because
Yeah.
there are so many people. There even include even people that grew up when I was growing up. Is that a lot of people honestly felt that PWIs was the way to go.
Hmm.
And again, that's that whitewashing that happens, that for some people, I don't know what happens, but it kind of sinks in, because it's like that's best, but HBCUs were less. And I even say this to a lot of young kids today. This includes nieces and nephews that I have that are around the same age as you. Is that you need to go to an HBCU. You have to, because you write about the scope and the lens and what things look like, but also you get to learn the real facts that you're never going to get at a PWI. And I'm not saying that that makes them less or whatever have you, but that kind of philosophy is like really, really different. Because think about it, at Harvard, they're teaching Tupac. And see, that in itself, to me personally, I find that insulting. I find it insulting. And I find it insulting is because, it's like trying to teach Black culture in this whole other place where a
Hmm.
lot of people are not ever going to learn or understand what that is when it comes to the bare bone facts. But this is what they're teaching. And so I've never been able to understand that.
Well, I think it connects with status. It is proximity. Everyone has been told their entire lives that Harvard is the best school in the world. It's the oldest school. It's not William and Mary's. It's older than Harvard, but I digress. Either way, but it's one of the oldest learning institutions in the country, and half of the Supreme Court attended the school. Majority, great deal of presidents, elected officials, people in power, people who tell and dictate how this world operates. Attend at Harvard or an Ivy League institution. I don't speak from a place of hate because I got in, right? So I mean, I'm not hating from outside the club, and those
Right.
schools have value, and they are valuable, and also those schools. I remember I was at a conference and someone asked, "Well, raise your hand if your law school taught you that your clients are more than just numbers or billables." And I was the only person who rose their hand. And I'm looking to the left and right of me like, well, what type of school you go to? We learned that the very first day. To be a social engineer, to be an attorney, you can either be a social engineer, you can be a parasite to society, to see individuals as human beings, not just number. I'm sitting here like, wait, that doesn't even seem ethical, you know? Like, but at the same time, status. It looks good, and the media further perpetuates that, and culture further perpetuates that. You can buy a Harvard hoodie at H&M, right? You can go to Target, if you still go there, or at any retail shop, and you can buy a Columbia or a Yale hoodie, not because you attended the school, but because there is a connotation with what those institutions mean in society. But I'll be the first to tell you, um, Howard University is older than a majority of these quote unquote best schools. In the legacy of Howard University. Our law school was founded in 1869, 2 years after the Civil War. I'm sorry, 4 years after the Civil War ended. Howard University undergrad was founded in 67, so 2 years after. These institutions shape the very fabric of society that we live in today. When you think about Dred Scott, the Dred Scott decision, we learned that most law schools, if they do teach it, they'll teach it in constitution law. I learned that in civil procedure. I learned that not only the basis of this case was that there was a black man who tried to sue. It doesn't matter what happened after, but there was a black man that tried to bring forth a lawsuit. And the Supreme Court, instead of even arguing or deciding on the merits of the case, said, "You're a black man. You're not a citizen. You have no standing," right? And so we're going to dismiss this case.
Yep.
Which then we have the 14th Amendment coming out later on, which was heavily advocated by Black and brown folks, mainly Howard Law School alumni. And the first sentence in the 14th Amendment is a complete reversal, saying that all people born or naturalized are citizens, right? And so you talk about founding fathers and you bring up, John Hancock and Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, but you don't include Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman, or you don't include the people that reconstructed the country after the alleged perfect documents that we had caused the country to break apart. But we don't talk about that because it's not pretty. It doesn't fit the idea of American exceptionalism. But you need to know the truth. And not to say that PWIs do not teach the truth. At an HBCU, I can assure you that you will learn the whole truth, the double truth, Ruth.
There's a comment here in the chat. Let me just show it to you here. And this is from Soroya Mia. This is just passing through. Hello to host and guests. Hello, and thank you for joining. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this wonderful show. So, tell us this: how did Howard Law shape your understanding of the law as a tool for liberation?
So, when the average person thinks about attorneys or law in general, it's from a punitive perspective. I broke the law, I need an attorney now, or someone broke the law, or this law is unfair, this law discriminates, this law, what have you. But we don't think about the Civil Rights Act that created new opportunities and spaces for individuals to actually bring suit to advocate for themselves. We don't mention the 30, 40-year endeavor of Charles Hamilton Houston and company to completely dismantle legal segregation through schools, right? At Howard University School of Law, in every single class, from my doctrinals to my upper level courses, yes, we discussed the law, the black letter law, and the analysis and the notes that come with that. But then we have a further discussion on, and what would you have done differently? In our very first semester, we are challenged, saying, you're the judge now. You have all the facts. You have all the law. What would you have done differently? And I think when you change your perspective from a place of being offensive versus defensive, it enables you to have an even larger imagination. If the law is not on your side, then there are public policy reasons. There are larger geopolitical ramifications that you can consider. There are psychological, sociological, other interdisciplinary perspectives that you can consider when arguing that, you know what, sure, the law's not on our side. That doesn't mean we give up. It sounds like we need to change the law then. And you know what? I'll do the work for you. This is what it actually should be, right? This is the framework in which we all succeed. And so I remember sitting in classes especially even my movement lawyering clinic, right? The idea of not just being an attorney who tells your client, hey, this is how it is, this is what you're going to do, shut up and pay me. You enter a space as co-laborers with a shared vision and idea of, okay, what do you want to occur within the bounds of law? And if it is not within the bounds of law, how can we be strategic in ensuring that what we do is rooted in justice? Because an unjust law is no law at all. And what can we do from a grassroots level, and an advocacy level, from a media perspective level, to ensure that it is being communicated in a way to the general public and to the powers that be in a way that everyone collectively can get on the same page?
Wow. Can you tell us what professors or mentors at Howard had the greatest impact on your journey?
The first individual coming to mind is none other than attorney Angela Minor. She is the chair at the School of Communications, Strategic Legal Management Communications department. She also serves as the head coach for the Howard University speech and debate team and mock trial teams. And she's a full-time attorney as well. And I took her mock trial class. I took her, issues of ethics and communications. I took her public speaking classes, and sitting in her office hours, she really inspired me not only to even consider a career in law, but to be one who builds things, one who sees the world, sees where there may be a gap, a deficiency, and add value. I think that she is probably the most influential or impactful professor in my undergraduate experience. But in law school, Professor Homer LaRue, he taught me civil procedure, section 2, the best section out of all the schools, and you can argue with your mothers if you think otherwise. But he taught me to read the rule. Read the rule in its entirety. Read the comments. Read the preface. Read the notes. Do research on the writer, the author, the authority. He always said, "Oh, cool, great, that's a great idea. What is your authority? What authority? What can you draw? What tangible thing can you draw from that states that your position is the better or is correct?" I also think about Professor Patricia Worthy, a class of 68, 69, Howard University School of Law. Worked on the March on Washington, the original one. And she taught us how to carry ourselves. I remember wearing suits in particular to her class on Wednesdays. And she showed us that to be a Black attorney is to be 100 times better than everyone else and receive 10% of the credit.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so she would cold call us and she'd ask us questions, and she said, and you expect someone to pay you $500 an hour with